Hello, everybody. Drasco here from uplevelmind.com, where my main mission is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs who know all the business strategies realize their next revenue milestone by mastering what's between their ears. And for today's episode, we have a real talk segment where I bring on a heart-centered entrepreneur who isn't seeing the consistent, stable growth in their business. And then live on the call, I get to help them get out of their own way on one inner challenge that they're currently experiencing towards their next business upgrade. And today's guest, we have Dr. Stephanie Snyder, who is a Navy wife and a mother of 4 beautiful children. She is the founder and CEO of the Opulent Life, which is a company designed to teach women to connect to the personal power, to create the life and the business that they desire with ease. And through simplified business methods, she teaches women how to make the most of their time and resources while still being present and enjoying life. And when Stephanie is not spending all of her time doing the business stuff, she's spending time with family or growing her business, and she enjoys horseback riding and running marathons. So Stephanie, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
I am doing excellent today. How are you?
I'm a solid 8 out of 10 today. Okay. It's been a good Monday. So it's like, we're doing good with that little bit of room for improvement. So, I think that's a good spot to be in.
Perfect.
All in all. All right. So what I'd love for you to dive into is a little bit more context on your background, right? Like I read a little bit of things. There's like little bits and pieces on like what you do, but I think it's always better to hear it from your own words and kind of how you got to doing what you're doing, why you do it. Floor is yours for that.
Absolutely. So for some reason, I'm being prompted to go way back. And I remember being in undergrad and telling my roommate at the time, we were sophomores in undergrad. And I said, oh, I just want to be a mom. Like, I don't want to be anything else. I just want to be a mom. And she laughed at me. But at the time I was nannying for some very wealthy families. And being a mom looked like a really great thing. And so I thought, you know what, I just want to be a mom. Well, fast forward several years later, working on my first master's degree, met my husband, and then became mom to my oldest, who is now 15. Just turned 15 last week. And my kids really are my greatest teachers. My kids are now, my son's 15 and my daughters are 12, 7, and 4. So they keep me busy for sure, but they are also my greatest teachers. And I have learned with each one of them to relinquish a little bit more control. To put it blatantly, I am a recovering control freak. I spent a couple of years after coming back from Sicily, Italy, where we lived for 3 years from 2009 to 2012. Came back and my husband was immediately thrown into deployment cycles. And he was gone 270 days out of our first calendar year back. And that kind of put me into my body into shock. I just went into survival mode and I tried to control all of those things to help me feel safe. And one of the things that I tried to control was laundry. As crazy as it sounds, I thought that I was going to be the first person in the world to conquer laundry and like actually have it all done. It was a crazy goal, but I thought, you know what, I just want to check it off the list, right? Well, I became obsessive. I would get short-tempered with my kids if they spilled anything, if I found a sock in between the couch cushions. They were changed out of their pajamas the second that they got up so that I could wash the pajamas and do all the things. It was my way of feeling safe. But what I didn't realize was that it was actually taking a toll on my kids. And I, at the time, was struggling with a little bit of depression, definitely anxiety. I could speak to my husband pretty regularly, but I never knew where he actually was during that time. So that added to the anxiety during that. But it all came to a head when I had reprimanded my son one night, probably for just being a boy. And he climbed onto his bed and he said, "Nobody loves me. I should just disappear." And in that moment, he said the words that I had been feeling for months. And I realized I'm not doing a very good job at this. I thought I was doing a great job pretending and being the great mom. But I realized very quickly that my children were doing what they saw, not what I was telling them. And so I started to make a whole bunch of changes in that moment. I became less obsessed about the laundry, realized that that was taking up way too much time, way too much energy, and stressing me out. So I made 2 days laundry days, still hold to that. Now, almost 10 years later, laundry is on Mondays and Thursdays. That's it, no other day. So that's kind of a little bit of the backstory. But then when I was working on my PhD, I finished my PhD 2 weeks before baby number 4 was born. And when I successfully defended that dissertation, everybody said, "What's next?" And I said, "A baby. Let me have this baby." But they all knew that there was going to be something else. And a couple of months after the baby was born, I woke up in the middle of the night to a voice, to a spirit, however you want to put it, telling me that I was using the MLM that I was working with as a crutch, and I needed to start my own business to help moms. And I said, "No, I'm good. I don't want to." Tried to ignore the nudge for a couple of weeks and then finally dived into it. And in 2018, started my first business, The Overjoyed Mom. And then early 2020, received the tug to start the Opulent life. So just started to transition into that in 2020 when the world went to, where it went.
Yep. That's well, okay. So the first thing I just want to highlight is in the end, you did conquer laundry.
I did.
It's
yes.
done on Mondays and Thursdays. It's been like that for 10 years. Like it seems
10
like
years.
it's been
Yes,
conquered,
we've got
so.
it under control now. But yes, I was convinced that I had to learn to let laundry sit in a laundry basket. And that was really hard for me.
Yeah. So it's always interesting how like it's there's always like a vehicle that is used to like play out our inner issues, right? And I know we kind of started and what this whole podcast and my program is about. It's like, the business is the vehicle to explore the inner issues that aren't being addressed, right? Kind of like that's kind of what I was thinking with regards to the laundry, because it's like the issue is never really the issue, right? So I love that. Like it's such a seemingly random example, but also not, right? So in that case, thank you very much for the context. And what I'd love to kind of dive a little bit deeper into is, so the Opulent Life, so that's your current business.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about that, like what the business is, what do you do, what are the challenges you're experiencing in it, kind of break that part down.
So I felt in early 2020 that I had outgrown Overjoyed Moms. Not because it wasn't doing well, it was doing phenomenal. I was easily making 5 figures a month. That was not an issue at all. I was working maybe 10 hours a week. So I had time freedom, I had money freedom. I got to spend a whole bunch of time with my kids too. But I felt called for something deeper, and I didn't know what it would look like, quite frankly. I just knew that I wanted more depth. I didn't want to be the time management coach, right? I didn't want to just talk about, how to master your to-do list kind of thing. Like I really wanted to get to the depth of why we do the things we do. And I was doing that a little bit with some of my private clients. We were going into more depth for the private clients, but I wanted to do it on a larger scale. And the idea had come to me for a 3-part coaching business. And initially, I had no idea what that meant. But as the pieces started to come together, and even now, as I'm saying this, they were really coming together. Like in the last couple of weeks, all of these pieces have started to move it into place. A 3-part system where I help with the body, the mind, and the soul. And so I believe that there are 3 parts to us: the mind, our full body, and then our soul is housed within our human body. And so the Opulent Life is about bringing alignment into those 3 parts of us, because if one of them is out of whack or out of sync or trying to do its own thing, then you have like this tug of war on your vision. And I equate it to if you were to hook up 3 horses to a carriage, right? And they're all supposed to pull in one direction. They're going to get there very quickly if they're all working together. But if one of them wants to go to the left and another wants to go to the right and one wants to go straight, you're eventually going to tear the carriage apart, right? They're not going to move anywhere. They're certainly not going to get there quickly. They're all just going to continue to fight with each other. And this is what I see happening a lot. But we don't always notice it, right? We say we want something, we want to eat healthy, but then we have a craving for chocolate. And so we're like, oh, well, I was going to eat healthy and okay, it's all right. I'll just eat this one chocolate bar. And then we fall off the wagon. Or we get this great inspirational hit and we're like, oh yeah, that's the program I want to do. That's what I want to do. And then our mind goes, I think that looks like what somebody else is already doing. Are you sure? And then we overanalyze, we become critical of it. And so we just end up pulling ourselves in all these other directions. So the opulent life is really about bringing us back in and getting the mind and the body to actually work in sync with what the soul wants anyways.
Beautiful. That's I mean, it's not just in line. It's a different path to kind of doing the same thing that I feel like is at the core of what Up Level Mind is about, but that synchronizing of all of these elements, like once you have clarity, like it can be a superpower to really open up the doors to make all of these pieces work. So yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. So when you look at the business now, then you have the clear vision, you clearly know what it's about, it's topics that you've explored before. What are the challenges that you're experiencing in the business right now?
So my challenges that I'm experiencing right now is verbalizing it in a way that lands. Like, so I can have this conversation with you and I can tend to go very theoretical, very, I can go up there, right? I can get lost in the magic and the mystics and all that stuff. And so currently the disconnect is, okay, this is the vision, but how do I show that it's solving a problem? Right. And this was, as I said to you before we started recording, this was literally a conversation that I had in my head this morning because I felt myself getting discouraged about being shadow banned on Facebook. Like I had great engagement last week. And then all of a sudden it was like, nothing. And I was like, what in the crap? And so I got in my head about it because I was over analyzing the words that I was using. As a college professor, I'm really great at picking the right words to express certain things, but it seems to be my downfall currently.
Got it. So what then do you feel like you're overanalyzing? Because what you shared with me, and I get it was a little bit high level, like was pretty clear, pretty spot on, pretty,
yes,
like you could visualize that in your head based off of the words. So what do you think then is the overanalysis?
So the overanalysis is, how do I make that important for somebody, right? So yes, I could sit here and say, okay, hey, like you need to be really great at time management, right? In order to run a business while being a present mom, you've got to know what you're doing. And so how do I take this 3-part system and break it down into the first couple of steps, right? So I can see the big vision. It's that first step where I'm going, okay, what do I say? Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah. So like, how do I matter to the people that actually need me? Right. Like that.
Right. Yes. So I would love for someone just to fall in my lap and be like, oh, I love what you're doing, but I don't think I'm articulating it well enough.
Okay. Got it. So if we then just zoom out a little bit more, right? Kind of like zoom in. Okay. What's the challenge? Zoom back out a little bit more. So if you look at a more broader spectrum, like how is this actually affecting you and your business? Like, is it stopping the growth? Is it getting you the wrong clients? Like, how is it actually affecting you?
It's definitely stopping the growth. I know that it is a need because I have a community of people who are like, I absolutely like, they're my peers that I talk with regularly. And they're like, that's an incredible idea. It's absolutely needed. There's this disconnect of how does it's not landing with people.
Got it. So if it's not landing with people, then you have an
Then,
issue bringing new
right.
clients in. So is it just new clients, or is it wrong people are coming to you?
Oh, just new clients.
Just new clients. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the stagnating of the growth.
Right.
Okay. Got it. So in that case, when you had your previous business, right, like the mom business, and you went into the managing the to-do list and all of that, how did you solve the same issue?
It wasn't an issue. I just talked about the stuff that I was already dealing with, and it landed for people, and they would message me when I wasn't even selling anything and ask to work with me.
Got it. And what's stopping you from doing that now?
Fear
Of what?
of not being good enough, not having enough wisdom to be able to facilitate this kind of thing, which I know is, my soul's having a conversation with me right now as we're talking about this.
Okay. So what does it say?
So I know that that's simply me getting in my way, because I am incredibly resourceful and I never let my clients down. It feels too big for my soul's like, let's do it. Absolutely. We're going to do it. But my human body's like, I don't think so. I'm not ready.
Okay. And if you were coaching yourself, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to just take the first simple step. And this is where my mind comes in and overanalyzes what that step looks like.
Right. Because it also proves the point that you're actually too small to harbor this mission. So what better way to keep you from doing that than to just overanalyze and utilize your strength and distort it into, well, no, like it's got to be this, and it's going to be that, and X, Y, Z, and ABC. So does that pattern resonate with you?
Absolutely.
So is this problem really about overanalyzing and understanding your message, or is it actually about self-protection?
Self-protection.
Okay. So knowing that, what are you protecting from? Like, what isn't safe?
Me, like fully me feels unsafe. And partly because there's a little bit of a trauma response coming in. As overjoyed mom, I was fully me. It was a lot of fun, loved it. And towards the end of that stint, when I felt like I had outgrown it, I had a client say some very terrible things to me. And now it felt like I had exposed myself, and now I don't want to expose myself because that hurt a lot.
Okay. So understandable, right? Any kind of traumatic, small t, little t traumatic experience will certainly do that. Is this about that experience, or is it about something deeper or different?
It feels like it's about that experience, but it also feels deeper.
Okay. So if it feels like it's both, then chances are that experience is being hijacked to mask what's deeper.
Yeah.
Okay. So knowing that, what do you think the deeper part is?
Fear of rejection.
And if you were rejected, then fill in the blank.
I would be sad.
Certainly.
Right. No, I mean, that's, I would be sad. I would feel disappointed. I would feel like I let somebody down.
So if you were rejected, you let somebody else down. Who is that somebody else?
I mean, well, if we're going to go way back, we'll go way back. I was the youngest of my parents' marriage. And I believed that it was my fault that they got a divorce. And so as a small child at the age of 6, I tried to do all of the things to get them back together. It wasn't until I was in college that I actually asked, I was 20 at the time probably, that I asked what had actually happened. But by then, the need to be perfect was so ingrained in me that it didn't really matter at that point. It was obviously not my fault, but as my 6-year-old self, I believed that I was the reason for it.
Yeah. And as children, definitely that is the conclusions we will come to make, so that absolutely makes sense and it's absolutely relevant. So my question to you then is, how does that translate into your patterns of rejection right now?
I don't want to have to do more to prove that I'm good enough.
And is
Yeah.
that really true?
No, it's not true. But that's what it feels like.
So it's not true. Yet when you look at your patterns and when you look at what you actually do, everything you're doing seems to kind of be skirting around the fact that you're trying to prove I am actually good enough,
Right.
right? I can get the right messaging. I can deliver the right things. God forbid somebody's angry with what I do, because then clearly I'm not good enough with what I'm doing. So I know you intellectually understand I don't need to prove anything to anybody to be good enough. But given how you're actually acting within the business, is that actually true?
I mean, on a soul level, I know it's not true. But again, intellectually, I feel that when will I be good enough for it to just be easy?
That's a great question. When will you be good enough? What's the criteria for that?
Perfection.
And what's the criteria for that?
A standard that nobody on planet Earth can match. And so, yeah. I don't want to say that it's everybody loving me, but that's kind of what it feels like.
Okay, so that's interesting. So if everybody did love you, then what?
I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want everybody to love me.
But it seems to be the standard of perfection.
I know, weird. I don't feel like I would be myself if everybody loved me, because
But yet you would be perfect.
right, if everybody loved me. Yeah.
Seems like a great limbo to to operate in.
Yes, yes.
So if everybody loved me, I would be perfect. And I need to be perfect to be good enough. But if everybody did love me, then it's going to be too much burden to actually bear.
Yes.
So what's the most you could hope for under that narrative?
Oh God, I just heard the word mediocre.
Because God forbid you were mediocre, right? As a PhD, as a, the best mom in the world, as somebody who's conquered laundry, God forbid all you ever are is just.
Oh yeah, no. Mm-mm. Yeah, no, like I want to wash that word off of me right now. Ugh. No, I don't want to be mediocre.
Much better just to chase something that doesn't actually exist.
Right. Better to be trying and fail than to not have tried at all.
Correct. And how's that working for you?
Not very well.
So what's coming up for you inside of your body as I reflect these things back?
Oh, really uncomfortable. If you haven't noticed, I laugh when I get nervous. Yeah. This again. No, it's really uncomfortable. It's almost like a lump in my throat.
And what would it say if it could talk?
Just do the damn thing.
Is that what your head would say, or was that what the lump would say?
No, well, my head would say just do the damn thing. If you go a little bit below the lump, it's you're loved no matter what. The lump is kind of just oscillating between the two.
So do the damn thing, and I'm loved no matter what.
Yep.
The lump in your throat, though, we usually have a lump in our throat when we can't get the words out.
There's nothing else coming through.
So
it's
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it seems like I get one or the other. I can't get both of them.
You can't do What with both of them? Speak them both out loud?
So they can't be true at the same time.
Okay. So explore that deeper. What can't be true at the same time?
So that's where it's oscillating, right? Either I do it and I might have success, or I know that I'm loved and then I won't be motivated to do the thing.
So loving and doing do not go together whatsoever.
No.
Got it. So
that's interesting. I'm going to write that down.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
So tell me more about why that feels significant.
Well, growing up, it was always, I received love by doing something, right? I got an A on the report card, so somebody gave me money for it, or I scored a goal and everybody was proud of me for that. Simply being was too much for people.
So is it really love and doing that don't go together, or is it being and doing, or being and loving that don't go together? Because you seem to have gotten love when you did do stuff.
Yes, but I don't. So the reason they don't go together now is because I'm tired of doing things for love.
Got it.
So that's why it was oscillating between the two.
Okay. So I'm tired of doing things for love.
Yeah.
Is it possible to receive love simply for being?
That feels hard.
Of course, because you spent a lifetime practicing doing to get love.
Yeah.
Chasing the doing to be perfect, because if you could do that long enough, then everybody would love you, let you know that you are actually perfect enough to be loved. But God forbid you circumvent that whole thing and just receive love for being.
Yeah.
So what's coming up for you as that's reflected?
It feels really uneasy in my chest.
Yeah, because the capacity for it is so limited. The idea of it is so threatening, right? I got to control everything, right? We started this whole conversation with like being a control freak, right? The epitome of doing to nerf the world around you so that nothing can ever actually hurt you, right? Similarly, how I can do everything to ensure that I get the adoration that's actually false love, right? But the being, just sitting there being vulnerably, like emotionally naked to receive love is so threatening, because it was so threatening before, and it's also so foreign from before. So right now it's obviously having such a hard time to fill your system. So what's coming up for you as I reflect that?
The idea of running and hiding. I feel like I'm exposed and I should just stop talking.
Yeah, that also makes sense, right? Given the pattern, right? Because a key part of being is going to be vulnerability.
Right.
And right now I'm being vulnerable, right? Things are surfacing. I'm touching and probing things that don't want to be like touched and probed. So it's going to feel raw. So, and that can go down obviously a very deep rabbit hole. What I want to just kind of bring it back to is this original thing that we started with in your business, right? Which is I'm overanalyzing the words and I can't articulate the problem that I'm doing or solving for people. Is it safe to say that's not really about articulating the problem and the messaging? It's actually more about, if I'm honest about the problem that I solve, it is actually going to reflect being who I am and what my soul wants to express through solving that problem.
And that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's a lot of time spent not being there. So the reason you could focus on it successfully on to-do lists, because you didn't have to be anything to do. Like that was about your doing. It was
Right,
about your
right.
successful doing. You can make the money, no problem doing that, because it's about everybody telling you how effectively you are doing, right? The
Mhm.
rejection seemed like, again, obviously I don't know specifics, but it seemed like that was something about how you were being, like somebody was really like ramming into you about something related to who I was,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
This whole sentiment of I'm going to get deplatformed for speaking my truth, right? I'm not good enough and I don't have the wisdom, right? I'm not being enough to share something that obviously wants to come out. This is all just narratives that are really pointed around a deep-seated fear to be in your fullness in this business.
Yes. Mhm.
So what's coming up for you as I reflect that?
That I have the chance to decide whether I, as a generator, I don't like to put myself into boxes, but I do know that I'm a generator and I can just go, go, go and do. Eventually that leads to burnout. Been there, done that. And so I could continue down and do that kind of a cycle, or I could find my power in the vulnerability.
Correct. The choice is a good spot to be in.
Yes, I do appreciate having two choices. I know where I want to go, and that's to lead with the vulnerability. But my mind is retaliating. Let's stay safe. Let's just do all the things.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because that's usually the pattern.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
And this kind of goes back to what I spoke about at the beginning, right? Like our primary strengths usually become our first distortions.
Mhm.
So what is that inner resistance? What is the ego going to hijack first to ensure that you don't go where it doesn't feel safe? It's going to hijack your mind as somebody who clearly is very intellectual. If you've, had a PhD and all the stuff that you mentioned, you're going to be very good at coming up with very good reasons, very well articulated reasons with regards to why not to pursue.
I'm excellent at those.
Yeah. So,
but on the flip side, when I get my mind set on something, I'm also really excellent at that.
Yeah.
So it just, again, which can I get my mind on board? Fully
correct.
on board.
And that, at least in the way that I always describe it in my coaching, is the process of thought hygiene, right? How do I clean up my thoughts enough to, like you said at the beginning, line up with what my heart and my soul actually wants to do, instead of letting the default run its course and basically keep me anchored in this limbo state of resistance and, at this point, non-growth in the business.
Yeah, I feel a lot like a hypocrite right now. So that's fun.
Yeah, welcome to Team Human. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah.
You're very welcome. So thank you for going there, because it's clearly not a rainbows and sunshine type of place to go. What I just want to then know is, obviously we can't dive into the full spectrum of this and like solve it all in this container. But as far as where we went, like, does this feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding?
No, it feels good. I'm a verbal processor, so usually this conversation will happen in my head as a bystander, where I literally have my ego and my soul will chat it through. But there's a depth to it when I have someone else asking the questions instead of just me kind of asking the same kind of questions. So that is really helpful. And again, being a verbal processor, usually I can just speak something aloud and it dissipates. But this was helpful to kind of connect those dots.
Yeah. Which I think, going back to what you're talking about before, that limbo state between like your head and your heart getting stuck in your throat, like that was like you saw that play out like kind of in real time, right? So I appreciate you sharing that. So if it then does feel complete, what I'd love for you to just then do is summarize in your own words, kind of where you were when you started this conversation, and then what were your highlights and takeaway as a result of it.
Perfect. So prior to the conversation, as I had said earlier, I was walking around all day trying to figure out where the disconnect was. I also believe in divine timing, so it's no wonder that this conversation fell on today. And so in terms of that, there's definitely a lot more clarity that it's not in my doing. And this was a question that I asked myself a lot is, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't it working? What am I not doing? And so just having that reflected back to me is really helpful and really just solidifies that it's really not about all the doing, which I know, right? And this is what I teach my clients as well, is that it's not really about all the things that you're doing. It's about who you're being when you're doing that. And so that was just nice to have it just reflected back and reminded of it.
Beautiful.
From a different voice.
Yeah, well, it's like, and I've said this on the podcast many times, like it's that sentiment of like it's hard to see the building when you're standing on the balcony, right? Like you need that external viewpoint to see the big picture. So thank you very much for sharing that and for allowing me to do what I do. So floor is yours now. Just let everybody know where to find you, who's the best person to find you. Floor is yours for that.
Perfect. So theopulentlife.com is my website. All my social media handles are there. There are previous podcast episodes that you can check out there. I'm not currently recording. I have a lot of moving parts right now. But you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. I do periodically show up on TikTok with some interesting little under 3-minute snippets, which are easily digestible. So, yeah.
Love it. Well, we'll include all those in the show notes. But regardless, Stephanie, thank you very much for vulnerably and courageously showing up today. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.